Dear students, in this lecture, we are going to discuss about electric field lines and Gauss flux theorem. In the previous lecture, we have considered Coulomb's law and the method for evaluating electric field using Coulomb's law. And here, this Gauss flux theorem also is useful, very much useful in specifically certain cases, useful for evaluating electric fields. And here we will consider both the integral and differential equation, derivation of these equations, after considering some basic properties of electric field lines. So first, let us consider the electric field lines, the properties of field lines. In order to introduce the field lines, initially let us consider a field region like this. Around a charge somewhere here, a field region where some electrostatic effect is experiencing is identified, and we can see that the field lines are not, or the field region is not of constant intensity. Corresponding to region near to the charge, the intensity is maximum, and as we move away, the intensity gradually reduces. In order to represent the strength of the field, we are using some representative vectors, and these representative vectors transforms into some field lines, and the vectors may be drawn like this. So corresponding to the central region, the length of the vector chosen is greater when compared to the length of the vector associated with outer regions, because the intensity corresponding to outer region is small when compared to that of the center region. So this type of representation is not always practical. So usually we will consider continuous lines in order to represent electric field lines. Now we will consider some basic properties of these field lines. The first one is related to the intensity or strength of the electric field, and it is represented by the density of field lines. The density of field lines means the lines passing per unit area. So let us increase the number of lines associated with this charge and consider an area somewhat closer to the charge region. And in the present case, we can see that around three lines are passing through the area, and if the area is at a far distance from the charge, for the present example we can see that there is only one line coming out. So the number of lines crossing per unit area is called the flux density, or it is a measure of the field intensity. The density of the field lines is a measure of the field intensity. Now, the direction of the field is the direction of movement of a positive test charge. We know that we always use a positive test charge in order to know the direction of the electric field. If you place a positive test charge near a positive charge, it repels, it moves away. On the other hand, if you place it near a negative charge, it attracts. So the direction of the positive test charge is taken as the direction of the field lines. The present case, if you place a positive charge here, it moves like this, moves away. So for the positive charge, the electric field is with arrow moving away from the center, and for the negative charge, the flux lines or the field line is moving towards the negative charge, like this. Now we can see that the electric field starts from the positive charge and end up in a negative charge, because it is the direction of movement of a positive charge. So it starts from the positive charge and moves towards the negative charge if some negative charge is near, or it moves to infinity if no negative charge present near, it moves to infinity. So this is the representation of field lines for a plus and minus charge. And if you have two charges, you can see that the field lines never intersect each other. And for demonstrating, I have placed 2 plus charges here. For both charges, the field lines are moving away. So it never crosses each other. It moves away like this. So this is another important property of the electric field lines. And for a conductor, we can see that the flux lines will be always perpendicular to the surface of the conductor. And the conductor, the example considered here is a spherical in shape and it is charged. And for a conductor, we can see that the charges resides on the surface. So the plus symbols are shown on the shown near the surface. And the flux lines will be perpendicular to the surface. That if you can draw a tangent here, and it will be perpendicular always. And if instead of considering a spherical shape, if you consider a rectangular shape like this, the flux lines will be perpendicular to the four sides, and this will be the shape of the electric field lines. And for an arbitrary shaped structure, here also it is a conductor, so the field lines, so the charges resides on the surface, and the field lines will be in different directions, so depending upon the tangent at different locations, so it will be in different directions. So this is another important property of the flux lines. Now with this, let us move to the derivation of Gauss-Flux theorem. Now we have to consider both the differential and integral forms of Gauss-Flux theorem. So let us start with the evaluation of the flux density first, then identify after considering the statement of Gauss-Flux theorem and the equations that we are going to derive during this course, during this lecture. So the statement is somewhat like this: the total normal electric field over a closed surface is equal to 1 by epsilon 0 times the charge enclosed by the surface. That is associated with the Gauss-Flux theorem, you have always a closed surface called Gaussian surface, and if there is some charges present inside the Gaussian surface, the total electric flux over the closed surface, is equal to 1 by epsilon 0 times the charge enclosed by the surface. That is the statement of the Gauss-Flux theorem, and we can have both integral and differential equations. So integral form of this equation is given by closed surface integral E dot ds is equal to 1 by epsilon 0 volume integral rho dv, and the differential form of or point form is given by del dot E is equal to rho by epsilon 0. First, let us consider the component of electric field over a surface. How to evaluate or how to find the component of electric field. For that, let us consider a picture like this. Some electric field is coming here. Electric field is here, and we are considering a surface here. And the surface is not in the direction of the electric field. That is the normal to the surface, and the electric field makes an angle theta. Now we can take the component of electric field in the direction of area, and we can say that it is equal to E cos theta. The component of electric field in the direction of the area or along the normal direction is equal to E cos theta. Resolve the electric field into the normal and perpendicular parallel component as E cos theta and sin theta for this particular case, and the normal component of electric field is E cos theta. Now the concept of Gaussian surface. We can have two types of Gaussian surface. We will consider the Gaussian surface in a symmetric form and in an arbitrary form. For this example, a source in the form of a point charge or a symmetrical spherical charge is considered. And for this case, the Gaussian surface is spherical shape with, we are considering the source at the center of the Gaussian surface, so that for any point on the surface of the sphere, the electric field will be constant in magnitude and also moves radially outwards. For this Gaussian surface, you can see that surface integral E dot ds is equal to q by epsilon 0. That is the expression for Gauss-Flux theorem. That is, there is only total charge q inside, no distributed charge there. So volume integral rho d tau is equal to q only. So surface integral E dot ds is equal to q by epsilon 0. Now, the second example, this is an arbitrary Gaussian surface, an irregular shape. Now here also only one charge q placed inside the Gaussian surface. So the equation remains the same. That is, closed surface integral E dot ds is equal to q by epsilon 0. In this case, the electric field at different points on the surface will be in different direction with respect to normal at that point, or the ds at that point. ds is different to that of the, is not in the same direction as that of the electric field. So we have to take the component. Now let us consider different types of charge inclusions with different Gaussian surface. So in this case, a negative charge is there, say minus q inside the Gaussian surface. So even though the plus charge is placed away from this minus q, the Gaussian surface includes only one charge, that is minus q. So the equation will be like this: closed surface integral E dot ds is equal to minus q by epsilon 0. Now let us consider the second Gaussian surface like this. What about the charge? The minus q is outside, the plus q also is outside. So the total charge inside is equal to 0. So closed surface integral E dot ds is equal to 0 in this case. Now similarly, we can consider any number of cases. In all cases, find out the total charges present inside. That may be in the form of discrete charges, or maybe continuous charges, or combination of discrete charges or continuous distribution. We simply consider the total charge present inside and substitute for volume integral rho d tau. Now, in this case, let us consider three charges. Let the charges be, say, plus 2q, say another again plus 3q, say minus 1q. Let this be three charges, discrete charges placed, and a Gaussian surface enclosing all these three. And it is equal to surface integral E dot ds, in this case 1 by epsilon 0 summation qi, that is equal to 2q plus 3q minus 1q, that is 5 minus 1, that is equal to 4, that is 4 plus 4q by epsilon 0. So that is the method for evaluating this one. And in the second Gaussian surface, you can see that there is plus 3 and minus 1 only enclosed within. So it is equal to plus 2q divided by epsilon 0. Now another example, the shape of the Gaussian surface in this case is in the form of a cube. So there are 6 faces, and corresponding to each face, the area is all corresponding to 6 faces are the same. And if the source is placed at the center of the cuboid, then the fluxes coming out through each surface will be equal. So the expression is closed to surface integral E dot ds is equal to q by epsilon 0. Now if somebody asks you to find the electric field passing through one surface, or the flux passing through one surface, it is 1 by 6th of this one, that is equal to q divided by 6 epsilon 0. That is the flux passing through one phase for this example. That is, this case we are assuming that the source is placed at the center, then only this equation holds good. Now let us consider the derivation for a Gaussian surface. Derivation of Gauss-Flux theorem by considering a Gaussian surface. And the Gaussian surface initially we consider a spherical Gaussian surface, and then we will derive the expression, integral form of the expression. Then we will consider an irregular shaped Gaussian surface. In that case also we will derive the expression for the integral form of the Gauss-Flux theorem. Okay, so first consider the spherical Gaussian surface. And here the equation is closed surface integral E dot ds is equal to 1 by epsilon 0 volume integral rho d tau, and only one charge q is here, so q is equal to volume integral rho d tau. And we can see that the electric field over the surface is constant. On the surface is constant everywhere, and it is radially moving out also. So since it is a spherically symmetric situation, the electric field is constant, and here it is represented as E in this direction, E in this direction, that is moving radially outwards. And so we can see that the area ds also have the same direction as that of E, because it is along the normal direction. So E and ds are in the same direction. So E dot ds changes to E ds. E dot ds, or E cos theta ds, is equal to E into ds. E ds changes to E into ds. So this equation, the left hand side of this equation is E ds, which simply becomes E ds, and the right hand side, one charge is there, so q by epsilon 0. And if you consider the position of the source displaced from the center, as shown in this example. The Gaussian surface is of spherical shape, but the source is not at the center. Now here we can see that the electric field is directed radially from the source point, but the area ds is along the normal with respect to the center of the sphere, with respect to the center of the sphere. And the angle theta is the angle between the direction of the area ds and the direction of the electric field. So the component of electric field in the direction of the area is E cos theta. E cos theta into ds gives the electric field associated with that region. So surface integral E cos theta ds, in this case, E dot ds changes to E cos theta into ds. E cos theta into ds is equal to q by epsilon 0. Now let us consider this first case, that is both E and ds are in the same direction. Surface integral E dot ds is equal to 1 by epsilon 0 volume integral rho d tau. That is the equation that we want to derive, and q is equal to in this case is equal to rho by epsilon 0. So here surface integral E dot ds is simply equal to E ds, as we have explained earlier, and electric field associated with a point source is given by the expression E of r is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon 0 q by r square into unit vector r. So this is the expression, basic expression for the electric field due to a point charge. Now let us substitute this equation in this place, in the place of the electric field E. So this equation changes to surface integral q by 4 pi epsilon 0 r square into ds. In place of E, we are ignoring the unit vector r. Here it is in the direction of E. Both are in the same direction. So q by 4 pi epsilon 0 r square into ds. So we are expanding E dot ds. The left hand side of this equation is expanding. Left hand side, E dot ds is expanding. Now this is q is constant, or we are taking the constant terms outside. Q by 4 pi epsilon 0 r square is taken outside. And surface integral ds. The surface integral ds means the total surface area of the sphere, and that will be equal to 4 pi r square. If r is the radius here, so surface integral ds is equal to 4 pi r square, and we are substituting that value here. So the expression changes to q by 4 pi epsilon 0 r square into 4 pi r square, and cancelling this 4 pi r square, we get it as q by epsilon 0. So surface integral E dot ds, we get it as q by epsilon 0. Actually, that is the required equation. In this case, volume integral rho d tau is equal to q. So surface integral E dot ds is equal to q by epsilon 0. So you get the derivation for the present example with a source point as point charge q. consider a Gaussian surface of arbitrary shape. In the earlier case, it is a spherical symmetry. So both electric field and area are in the same direction. So simply we are able to find out the surface integral ds as 4 pi r square, that is the surface area of a sphere. If the Gaussian surface is not a spherical shape, we have to find that by making use of the integral method itself. And that is the difference between the spherical Gaussian surface with the source at the center and an arbitrary Gaussian surface. Right now we are considering that example. Now in this case, Q is placed at the center and the Gaussian surface is of any arbitrary shape. And let us consider any surface ds. And corresponding to this ds, the electric field is coming from the source in this direction, electric field. And this ds makes an angle theta. ds makes an angle theta with the electric field. And the component is, we can see that EDS. And the expression, starting expression is surface integral E dot ds is equal to 1 by epsilon 0 volume integral rho d tau. In the present case, there is only one charge inside, that is Q, so volume integral rho d tau is simply Q. And let us expand the left hand side, that is surface integral E dot ds. Surface integral E dot ds is equal to surface integral E into ds cos theta. We are taking the component as I have mentioned. The component is taken, so E into ds cos theta, and the electric field given by 1 by 4 pi epsilon 0 q by r square. If this distance is taken as r, then 1 by 4 pi epsilon 0 q by r square is substituted in this expression. So surface integral q by 4 pi epsilon 0 r square into ds cos theta, or taking the constant terms outside, that is q by 4 pi epsilon 0 into surface integral ds cos theta by r square, Now, what is ds cos theta by r square? Now, ds cos theta by r square, here we can see that, so this ds makes an angle d omega at the center. ds makes an angle like this. Say this is ds, and this is the source location. We can see that this is the normal direction. We can draw an area here. This area is ds cos theta. This is ds cos theta. This is theta. So this is ds cos theta, the component of ds in the direction. And we can see a solid angle subtended by this area. The solid angle subtended by this area as d omega. D omega is shown in this picture. That is ds cos theta by r. R is the radius. So ds cos theta by r square. ds cos theta by r square is equal to d omega. That is integral d omega. If you take integral d omega, that is equal to 4 pi steradian. That is for the case of a circle. For a case of a circle, we can see that the angle theta is equal to this x by r. That is arc by radius is equal to theta. In the case of a sphere, we are considering the surface area ds. In this case, it is ds cos theta. We consider a sphere like this, and any surface area is considered. So this is ds. Then this is the solid angle. The angle subtended as d omega. And if you take the integral of d omega means the total angle. In the two-dimensional case, you get this as 2 pi radians. Two-dimensional case, it is 2 pi radians, and the four-dimensional case it is 4 pi steradians. Okay, so that is arc by radius is equal to angle, and the integral over a circle, arc by radius, integral over a circle is equal to 2 pi, and a surface area divided by radius square. Radius square is equal to solid angle, and integral of that solid angle with respect to a point, that is over a sphere, is given by 4 pi steradian. So we are substituting that value here. So this 4 pi cancels out and the expression becomes q by epsilon 0. And here also the equation turns out to be surface integral E dot ds is equal to q by epsilon 0. So we get the derivation of Gauss-Flux theorem. Now let us consider a charge distribution. In the previous derivations we have considered point charge, a point charge q. If it is in the form of a distribution, instead of q we will consider volume integral rho d tau, the total charge enclosed within the Gaussian surface. So in this case, the Gaussian surface, if you take a E and a ds like this, the equation changes to, the only modification is here, 1 by epsilon 0 volume integral rho d tau, that is this charge is characterized with rho. Take the volume integral rho d tau gives the total charge enclosed this region, and that is substituted in this expression, and this is the integral form of Gauss-Flux theorem. That is a general equation for Gauss-Flux theorem, integral equation for Gauss-Flux theorem. Now let us consider the differential form of Gauss-Flux theorem. And the differential form, in order to obtain the differential form or point form of Gauss-Flux theorem, we have to make use of Gauss divergence theorem. So Gauss divergence theorem is not same as Gauss-Flux theorem. So Gauss divergence theorem is a theorem used to convert a surface integral into a volume integral. Means something over a surface is related to the course of that thing within the volume enclosed by the surface. That is, in the present case, we have electric field over the surface, and the reason for that electric field is the source inside the surface, and we are equating or relating the electric field over the entire surface to the total source content within the surface. So here, starting with this integral equation, we are using the divergence theorem, the Gauss divergence theorem, not Gauss-Flux theorem. This is Gauss divergence theorem. That is, a surface integral E dot ds is equal to volume integral del dot E dv. That is, the surface integral is related to the divergence of E. So what we are doing is substituting that here. So surface integral E dot ds is equal to volume integral del dot E dv, and that is equal to the right hand side 1 by epsilon 0 volume integral rho d tau. Now volume integral, here is an volume integral, here is an volume integral. So we are removing the volume integral dv from both sides, and the final equation is the differential form or point form of Gauss-Flux theorem, and that is given by del dot E is equal to rho by epsilon 0. So these are the two important representation of Gauss-Flux theorem, integral and differential form. Depending upon the situation or the problem given, we have to make use of the integral form or differential form to find out the electric field. Also we can see that this Gauss-Flux theorem is of very importance or much useful in the case of certain problems with the symmetry. Symmetries like spherical symmetry, cylindrical symmetry, plane symmetry, etc. that we will consider in the coming lecture. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.